So there have been so many definitions of what threat intelligence is and what it means. And this can totally be dependent on your vertical, what is of interest to you, what we care about, knowing what could hurt us. In this case, our IT systems, applications, data, personnel, etc. A common thought process is that cyber threat intelligence, or CTI, is the transition of noise or raw data into information, which can then be filtered, shaped, linked, associated, essentially analysed. It should be actionable, relevant and timely, meaning that by having some kind of evidence-based knowledge, we can act on or perform some kind of action that is applicable to us. In that we can answer the so what question and why should I care about that sort of question. And of course that we obtain this evidence based knowledge in time to essentially prevent, avoid, delay and deter some kind of unwanted event, something that over something that we have an interest or a right over, or something we just care about. So essentially, threat intelligence can help us transition from a situation where we are unaware of a vulnerability or a potential threat against it, to a situation where we can perhaps have knowledge and understanding of vulnerabilities, and indeed where the likely threats are against them. An identified process was highlighted by Donald Rumsfeld, the former United States Secretary of Defense, who fielded the idea of transitioning from a unknown situation to a known situation. It does get a little bit mind-bending. So taking the first one, known knowns, in this situation, this is essentially elements that we are typically aware of and that we understand where their weaknesses are. To give you an analogy, I may have a door that's secured by a weak, locking mechanism. I also know in the area there's been heightened rates of burglary. So, at this point I have a known situation. So therefore I can take some kind of mitigating action. In this case, it may be putting an alarm on the door. So at this stage, I've reduced that risk because I am in a known situation. In contrast, the unknown unknowns present significant challenges for all organisations. It can be very difficult to prepare for such a status, if at all. To give you an example, unknown unknowns could essentially be a zero-day exploit that you are totally unaware of against an application that you are using, and that out somewhere in the wild there is a threat actor group which may be in possession of exploits against this zero-day. In this situation, a threat actor which is armed with this exploit for this zero-day is typically a bad status, where you have this unknown situation. There are other states that sit somewhere in between, and one of them is then unknown known, and also known unknowns. And these typically sit, like I say, between the two that I've mentioned. For example, unknown knowns could be a situation where we are unaware of a vulnerability that may exist in your infrastructure. However, there may be other actors in the industry space that are fully aware of this vulnerability. And this is a situation called an unknown known. And finally, the status of known unknowns could be a vulnerability or elements that you are aware of, however, you don't know how to fix them or how to mitigate them. Or in fact, if you did do some kind of patching or mitigation, what is the effect, what is the impact of that, what is that going to have on your business or organisation? So the simple answer is yes, but not so much differing types. Moreover, answering different questions or filling gaps to relevant questions. Answering the so what question, which is so relevant. They do overlap and intersect depending on the requirements, especially on a technical and a tactical sort of pegging. Essentially, CTI, or cyber threat intelligence, can be filtered to a specific audience or a group that can utilise any specific output of that process. For example, an organisation who is a subscriber to CTI within the business, there may be operational questions that need to be answered. Therefore, the CTI answers will be filtered and made relevant to an operational standpoint. For example, this could be intelligence on a specific incoming attack or something which is actually happening at that time, and would be consumed by security managers active network defenders who can act on it in a timely manner. All the specific answers that can be provided could be aimed at a strategic audience, maybe that of a more higher level, consumed by key decision makers in the business, and this could be more executive and management level. Possible intelligence that may indicate something on the horizon that may impact on a business decision potentially, or a business direction that is intended. Tactical CTI would be more of is more technical in its offering, but this is where there's overlaps with the technical CTI. Perhaps identifying an attacker's TTPs, or their tactics, techniques and procedures. Perhaps helping in the attribution of an attack. This type of CTI would be consumed by network defenders, SOC sort of analysts, enriching that detection sort of solution that you may have within the business. Another flavour is technical CTI, which, like I say, overlaps with tactical. And this would perhaps look at specific IOCs, or indicators of compromise, or as I like to call them, cyber observables. IOCs are the pieces of evidence that get left behind. For example, logs, exploit code that could be left behind after an attack. Anything that supports the idea of a malicious compromise. It could be simply an IP address from a C2 controller. IOCs, along with TTPs, can almost start to be attributable elements to a specific threat actor group. We often see threat actors utilising certain methodologies, or the modus operandi, the way they work. Very often, the way of initial compromise, how the target was first attacked or hooked, is often replicated, and this almost equates, if you like, to a signature or a fingerprint against an organisation.